What if I told you dragons were never just monsters, but mirrors of human fear, power, and ambition? From fire-breathing beasts guarding mountains of gold to ancient sky gods worshipped as creators, dragons have ruled our imagination for over 5,000 years, and they still dominate our screens today. But why? Why does a creature that never existed feel more real than most legends? The answer isn't magic. It's psychology, history, and a deep human obsession with power we cannot control. The earliest dragon stories didn't come from fantasy books or Hollywood. They were born in ancient caves, deserts, and battlefields. When early humans discovered massive fossils, giant skulls, curved claws, and enormous ribs, they didn't know dinosaurs existed. To them, these bones could only belong to gods or monsters. In China, these remains became symbols of divine authority and balance. In Europe, they became nightmares, creatures of chaos, destruction, and sin. Same bones, completely different meaning. That's when dragons stopped being animals and started becoming symbols. In the East, dragons ruled the skies and seas. They brought rain, controlled rivers, and decided the fate of crops and empires. Chinese emperors didn't just admire dragons, they claimed to descend from them. Dragons there had no wings, no fire, and no evil intent. They were long, serpentine, intelligent, and wise. A dragon was order. A dragon was balance. To see a dragon was to witness the universe in motion. Power wasn't something to be defeated, it was something to respect. But in the West, dragons became the opposite. They lived in caves, hoarded gold, and burned villages to ash. Knights didn't worship dragons, they killed them. St. George slaying the dragon wasn't just a story, it was a message. The dragon represented fear, temptation, and uncontrollable greed. To defeat it meant conquering chaos. Western dragons were fire-made flesh, violent, greedy, and destructive. Same creature, two civilizations, two completely different truths. And yet, every dragon shared one thing: dominance. Dragons fly when humans cannot. They breathe fire when humans fear it. They guard treasure without needing armies. Dragons are power without permission. That's why they never disappeared. When swords vanished, dragons adapted. They entered books, movies, games, and now algorithms. Modern dragons didn't just survive, they evolved. Tolkien turned them into intelligent tyrants like Smaug, speaking with arrogance and psychological terror. Smaug didn't just burn cities, he humiliated heroes. Then came fantasy universes like Skyrim, where dragons weren't obstacles but ancient rulers reclaiming their world. And then Game of Thrones changed everything. Dragons were no longer villains. They were weapons of mass destruction, symbols of destiny, and living proof that power always demands a price. Daenerys didn't control dragons, she survived them. That's what made them terrifying. Dragons in modern stories aren't loyal pets. They're forces of nature. You don't command fire, you negotiate with it. And American audiences felt that deeply because dragons now represent something familiar: overwhelming power in a world struggling to control it. That's why dragons dominate pop culture today. In an age of nuclear weapons, AI, and unstoppable technology, dragons feel realistic. They are ancient metaphors wearing modern skins. A dragon is what happens when power outpaces wisdom. It's what happens when ambition flies higher than responsibility.